I used to think betrayal came with warning signs. Missed calls. Lipstick on a collar. That kind of thing. Turns out, sometimes betrayal looks like a woman in navy blue scrubs, kissing you on the cheek, asking if you remembered to pack the kids' lunches, and walking out the door like nothing in the world was broken. I'm 40. My name's Rick. 2 kids, Owen and Lily. A nice enough house in a sleepy part of Maryland, where the biggest crime used to be forgetting trash day. I work remote in cybersecurity. And my wife, Amanda, is a doctor. Family medicine. Everyone at her clinic loves her. They call her Dr. L with the magic touch. Funny how someone with magic hands can still tear your heart out with them. We've been married for almost 14 years. That's long enough to build a life, but apparently not long enough to keep someone from wrecking it. It started subtly, like a slow drip from a faucet you can't see. You hear something, but you tell yourself it's nothing. You sleep through it, until one day the whole floor is soaked. Amanda started getting distant. Not all at once. Not with big dramatic changes. Just little stuff. She stopped texting me back right away. No more, "Hey babe" messages during lunch breaks. No more silly gifs or inside jokes. She blamed the new EMR system at work. I barely have time to chart, let alone text. Fair enough. I wanted to believe her. But then there were the late nights. Now, family doctors don't do shifts like ER docs. They're not patching people up at 2 a.m. Yet Amanda suddenly had to stay late all the time. Emergency paperwork. Last-minute meetings. Late consults with patients in crisis. She had this one patient, she said, a guy in his mid-30s going through a tough divorce. He was always calling, always needing to talk. She said it was emotionally draining, and that she was trying to be professional about it. Back then, I took her word for it. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You trust them. But trust, as I've learned, is like a bank account. And she was making withdrawals without telling me. I remember the exact moment I knew something was wrong. It was a Tuesday. Amanda said she'd be home around 8. She texted at 8:20 saying she was just finishing up. At 10:45, she still wasn't home. I tried calling her. No answer. I waited another hour, pacing our kitchen in my socks, watching the ice in my glass melt untouched. She finally came in at midnight, hair a mess, jacket half-buttoned, eyes glassy. Said she'd gotten stuck on the phone with the same patient. That he was talking about harming himself, and she couldn't just hang up. That explanation sat in my stomach like a stone. I said I was proud of her for being there for someone in pain. She smiled, kissed my forehead, and went to shower. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I checked her call logs. I know. People say if you're snooping, the trust is already gone. But I wasn't snooping to catch her. I was hoping to prove myself wrong. Except, there were no calls from that night. Not at midnight. Not at 11. Not at all. Just one outgoing call at 8:07 p.m. That lasted 6 minutes. After that, silence. And yet she told me she was on the phone for nearly 2 hours. I didn't confront her. I wish I could say I was brave enough to call her out on the spot. But I wasn't. Instead, I sat there holding her phone like it was a loaded gun, trying to figure out whether I was the crazy one. That was 2 months ago. Since then, I've become someone I never wanted to be. Quiet. Careful. Observing her like a stranger. Watching what she wears. Listening to the tone in her voice. Wondering what's real and what's scripted. Last week, she said she was going to a medical conference up in Philly. A weekend away. Networking. Continuing education credits. It was all very official. She even emailed me the itinerary, like she knew I might ask. And maybe that would have convinced me if I hadn't found the receipt in the trash. A receipt for a boutique hotel in Baltimore, not Philadelphia. 2 nights. 1 room. King bed. Under a different name. She had checked in as Anna Lee. Anna Lee. Her middle name, rearranged. Cute, right? I didn't call her. I didn't drive there. I didn't rage. I just sat on the couch with the receipt in one hand and our wedding photo in the other, wondering when exactly the woman in the picture stopped loving the man beside her. I've always believed that most people don't cheat out of hate. They cheat out of selfishness. Out of boredom. Because they want to feel something again. And sometimes, they cheat because they think they deserve more, without ever asking what the person beside them has already given up. You give someone your years, your weekends, your quiet support while they study for the boards, your half of the bed, your half of your paycheck, your half of your sanity, and one day, they take it all and check into a hotel under a name that isn't theirs. That's where I'm at. And this is just the beginning. I hadn't planned to check her car. I really hadn't. But that next morning, After finding the hotel receipt and spending the night wide awake, staring at the ceiling fan spin like a broken compass, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Her car was parked out front. Quiet. Innocent. Just sitting there like it wasn't hiding anything. Amanda had taken mine to the clinic that day. Said her brakes were acting up. I offered to swap. She smiled, said, "Thanks, babe," and drove off like nothing was crumbling. So there I was in the driveway, barefoot in pajama pants and a hoodie, holding a mug of cold coffee in one hand and her keys in the other. I stared at the car like it was about to confess. I opened the door. Got in. The smell hit me first. Not hers, not the usual hint of vanilla body spray and coffee breath, but something different. Cologne. Not overwhelming, not fresh. Faint. A ghost of someone else. I opened the glove compartment like a man opening Pandora's box. Inside, insurance papers, gum wrappers, a small bottle of Advil, and a folded piece of hotel stationery. I unfolded it. "Thanks for last night. You looked incredible. Your laugh drives me crazy. Can't wait to see you again. Jay." No phone number. No full name. Just a single initial, like I was living in a bad Netflix series. I stared at the note for a long time. Not angry. Not shocked. Just numb. It was written in blue ink, with clean, deliberate handwriting. That little detail made it worse somehow, like he took his time. Like it wasn't a one-time thing. My wife didn't just cheat. She got courted. Suddenly, every little thing made sense. The new lingerie I found stuffed behind the dryer. The random interest in scented candles. The fact that she started going to spin class at 6 a.m. and never looked sore. I sat there for 20 minutes in that silent driveway, gripping that note, trying to remember the last time Amanda had written me anything like that. Birthday cards? Always generic. Anniversaries? Mostly signed, "Love you, Amanda." Short. Efficient. Clinical. But Jay got handwritten confessions and lipstick on hotel pillows. Nice. I wish I could say I got angry. That I threw the note, tore it up, screamed into the headrest. But I didn't. I just folded it back up, tucked it in my hoodie pocket, and went back inside. You know what's wild? When someone cheats, it's not just them that becomes a stranger, it's you. You become this quiet version of yourself, walking around the house like you're on museum grounds, afraid to disturb anything. You question everything, not just her lies, but your own memory. Did she always text that way? Was she ever actually happy? Was I enough? Was I blind? I didn't bring it up when she got home that night. She made dinner pasta with that white wine sauce she knew I liked. She poured herself a glass and hummed along to some playlist she always puts on when she's pretending things are normal. It's strange how someone can sit across the table from you, smile, and twirl spaghetti around a fork like their whole world isn't built on a lie. She asked how my day was. I said, "Uneventful." She nodded. "Sometimes boring is good." I said, "Sure. Sometimes it's just a sign someone's hiding the interesting parts." She didn't react, just sipped her wine and changed the subject. That night, we got into bed, and she leaned over to kiss me goodnight. And I let her. I let her kiss me with the same lips she'd probably used on Jay the weekend before. And it made me feel nothing. Not rage. Not disgust. Just nothing. And that scared me more than anything. Because if I didn't feel pain, then maybe I was already gone, too. Maybe whatever we had died a long time ago, and we'd just been dragging the carcass around, calling it marriage. I didn't sleep. Again. But this time, I had a plan. The next day, I took the note and drove to the hotel printed at the top of the stationery, the Carlton on East Chase Street. I told the front desk clerk that I had stayed there over the weekend and thought I'd left behind a silver watch in room 409, just to see if it'd ring any bells. The clerk looked up the room history. "No one by your name stayed in 409, he said, tapping his keyboard. "We had a Miss Lee, though." I smiled. "Right. That's my wife. I booked it under her name." He blinked. "Actually, she wasn't alone. It was booked for two." Of course it was. "Any chance you have video surveillance of the lobby?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He frowned. "We do, but I can't show it without a subpoena." Naturally. So I thanked him, left, and sat in the parking lot for another 20 minutes, staring at the building. Then I did something I didn't think I'd ever do. I called a lawyer. Not to file yet. Not to start a war. Just to get the rule book. Because if Amanda wanted to play games, I wanted to know how to win. I used to think affairs were messy but, at the very least, private. Turns out some people skip the privacy and go straight to reckless. I thought Amanda had a thing with one guy. A guy named Jay. I thought it was some emotional escape hatch, maybe a coworker, maybe an old flame. Turns out, I was giving her way too much credit. I found out the truth by accident. That's the part that still stings. I wasn't even looking anymore. Not that day. I was just trying to back up some old family photos from our shared cloud drive. That's it. The usual husband on Saturday morning kind of task. But Amanda, bless her soul, hadn't properly logged out of her work email on the laptop we share. And curiosity, that awful, loyal companion of every betrayed spouse, got the better of me. I clicked. Her inbox was mostly boring. Reminders about flu shots, staff meeting notes, wellness memos from the HR department. But then I saw a folder titled Personal Archive. Yeah, real subtle. There were over 40 emails in there. Some were short, single-line messages. Others were long and poetic, almost like love letters. But they weren't from one guy. They were from multiple names. Different men. All patients. Some of them even used their full names in the email addresses. A few had attached selfies shirtless. One sent a picture of himself holding a stethoscope as a joke, captioned, "Time for my checkup, doc face-blowing kiss." It wasn't just one affair. It was dozens. Dozens of messages. Dozens of men. She'd reply to some of them with the kind of language I hadn't heard from her in years. Flirty. Warm. Personal. One guy thanked her for making Tuesdays the best day of the week. Another joked that he left with more than just a prescription. A third said he still couldn't believe they had done that in her office after hours. I stopped reading after that one. My hands were shaking. Not from anger. Not even from heartbreak at that point. It was disgust. I scrolled to the bottom. The earliest email dated back almost 3 years. 3 years of whatever this was. Rot, I guess. Hidden behind a white coat and soft smiles. All this time, while I was packing lunches, booking dentist appointments, unclogging drains, helping with science projects, giving up weekends for soccer games, Amanda was out here playing doctor in more ways than one. And not in hotels. Not even in secret apartments. No, she kept it efficient. Professional. Right there in her own exam room, after hours. While the front desk staff clocked out and the janitor mopped the hall. She was having affairs with her patients. Her patients. People who came in for help. For medical care. For actual treatment. And she used those moments, that power dynamic, to build her own private fantasy world. I don't know what's worse, the cheating itself, or the fact that she treated intimacy like a loyalty program. Every 10th visit gets you a kiss and a prescription refill. I wanted to scream. Throw the laptop. Burn the house down and rebuild it brick by brick just to rid it of her. Instead, I closed the screen and sat there in the kitchen, staring at the steam rising from my untouched coffee. You know what I thought about first? Not revenge. Not a confrontation. I thought about our kids. Our daughter, Lily, who still draws, I read heart mommy pictures and tapes them to the fridge. Our son, Owen, who once said he wanted to be a doctor, just like mom. If they ever found out, it would destroy them. The weight of that hit harder than any email I'd read. But make no mistake, I wasn't going to let this go. Not now. Not after learning that my wife, the woman who once lectured me about ethics and boundaries, had turned her private practice into a revolving door of bad decisions and temporary highs. She was playing with fire, and I was done watching her dance in it. There's a moment, after the shock fades, after the heartbreak simmers down, when your brain flips a switch. You stop feeling. You start calculating. That's where I was. It had been 2 days since I found those emails. 2 days of pretending. Making dinner. Laughing with the kids. Kissing Amanda goodnight like I didn't know she had a part-time second life behind a clinic door. But underneath, something had shifted. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was clear. I started small. I backed up everything, the emails, the screenshots, even some calendar entries she'd clearly forgotten to delete. She had one labeled Yoga, Tuesday 7 p.m. that coincided with a message from a patient saying, "Loved seeing you been like that. Until next time." Classy. I saved it all on a thumb drive and stashed it in a shoebox in the garage under some old tax folders. Then I started checking the clinic website, looking for the partners, the medical board info, the names of anyone who could pull a license if they ever saw the things I had. But I wasn't rushing anything. You see, when someone betrays you like that, they expect 2 reactions. Rage. Collapse. What they don't expect is silence. Strategy. Stillness. I started watching her more carefully. She still kissed me goodbye every morning. Still worked late, at least twice a week. Still came home with that fake kind of tired, the kind you wear like a mask to avoid questions. And she still looked me in the eye like she thought I was too soft to ever do anything about it. Funny how the most dangerous people are the ones who stop making noise. I waited until Saturday to act. That's when Amanda usually went to her morning run group, which I now suspect was more of a cardio-based rendezvous than actual fitness. While she was gone, I took her clinic badge and headed to the office. I'd been there before: holiday parties, meet and greets with other spouses. The front desk staff knew me. I walked in like I belonged. The building was half empty, and her wing was dark. I used her badge to get into her office. It looked normal, sterile, professional. But once you know what's been happening in a room, it never looks the same again. I sat down at her desk and started opening drawers. Notebooks, patient forms, sticky notes with medication reminders. And then, in the bottom drawer, taped to the underside, I found it. A burner phone. Of course. She really thought she was clever. I powered it on. No password. Bold move. The texts were still there. Not one guy. Not two. 8. At least. All patients. All saved with code names. Mark from Tuesday, R, with the tattoo, Night Owl, Tall Mike, etc. It was like reading a grimy novella, and my wife was the main character. One of them had sent her a selfie from the exam chair, half undressed, holding up a tongue depressor like it was a joke. Another text read, "Still thinking about last Friday. You moaned my name so loud I thought someone would walk in." This is what it was now. My wife, the woman who once scolded me for using the wrong setting on the dishwasher, had been doing God knows what on top of a medical-grade exam table. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall, but I didn't. I took photos of the texts. Every thread. Every timestamp. I was building a case, not for court. For control. She thought she had power because she had secrets. But I had something better. Receipts. I locked up, put the phone back exactly where I found it, and went home. Amanda came back later, all flushed and out of breath, holding a smoothie like she just crushed a marathon. She kissed me. I kissed her back. And in that moment, I decided something. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I wanted her to live in the comfort of her lie, just long enough for me to decide where the cracks would show first. Because the truth was worse than the affair. It wasn't just about love, or intimacy, or even betrayal. It was about how many versions of herself she had become, and how easily she thought she could get away with it. She had turned her career, her integrity, and our marriage into a playground, and figured I was too kind, too loyal, too boring to ever flip the script. But she forgot something important. I know how to wait. I know how to watch. And now, I know everything. I used to think revenge would feel loud. I imagined yelling, slamming doors. Some big cinematic scene where I threw all her clothes onto the lawn in the rain while she cried and begged for mercy. But no, real revenge? It's quiet. It's waking up before your cheating wife, making her coffee just the way she likes it, packing your kids' lunches while she scrolls through her phone, probably texting someone labeled M or Taco Guy or whatever code name she's using this week. It's smiling through breakfast and asking how her shift went the night before, while knowing full well it ended with her legs wrapped around a patient who came in for cholesterol medication. I didn't confront her. I didn't need to, because I was setting something in motion she couldn't see. A calm storm. I contacted a private investigator, told him what I had. The burner phone, the emails, the men, the texts. He whistled softly when I showed him the folder I'd built. "Your wife's not just cheating," he said. "She's risking jail time." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a marriage falling apart. It was a liability. A practicing physician sleeping with patients in her own office? That's a malpractice case waiting to explode. She could lose her license, her reputation, everything. And part of me wanted that. I'll be honest. I wanted to see her beg. But life, as always, had different plans. Because just when I thought I had the upper hand, I got a call from a blocked number. At first, I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. And what I heard changed everything. It was a man's voice. Calm, tired, almost defeated. "Hi. You don't know me. My name's Eric. I saw your number in a thread Amanda left open by mistake on her old phone. I wasn't going to say anything, but I think you should know. She told me you two were divorced. She said you were abusive, controlling, that you stalked her. I believed her until I saw she was saying the same thing to someone else. Word for word. I'm sorry, man. I didn't know." I sat there on the edge of our bed, listening to the message over and over again. Abusive, controlling, a stalker. She had rewritten me, not just erased me from her new little fantasy worlds, but turned me into the villain. Suddenly, the lies weren't just personal. They were character assassination. And if she was telling multiple men that I was some unstable monster, how long before someone believed it enough to act? Before she used it against me in court? With our kids? That's when I realized something far worse than cheating had happened. This wasn't about lust anymore. Amanda wasn't just unfaithful. She was building an exit plan, and I was being written out of my own life. I called the PI back, told him to dig deeper, all the way. Bank accounts, text records, devices, GPS, social media, anything that showed her pattern. What he found, it floored me. Amanda wasn't just cheating. She wasn't just lying to the men. She wasn't just manipulating me. She'd been manipulating everyone. She'd opened a separate checking account in her maiden name, transferred over $12,000 in the past 6 months, all in small amounts, all hidden. She'd changed her emergency contact at work, removed me, added Jessica L., a friend she hadn't spoken to in 3 years, and she drafted, but hadn't yet filed, a petition for separation. It named me as emotionally unstable and increasingly threatening. I was one step away from walking into a legal ambush with no clue it was coming. That was the twist. While I was tracking her affairs, she was building a narrative. One where I was the danger. One where she was the victim. She was cheating on me, lying to my face, and sleeping with patients in an exam room, and I was about to be painted as the toxic one. All that smiling at breakfast? All those nights she curled up next to me after God knows what? It wasn't guilt. It was strategy. And now? It was war. People say when you catch someone in the act, time slows down. They're right. I didn't plan to walk in on her. I planned to record, maybe watch from a distance, gather what I needed, and walk away quietly. Let the lawyer handle the rest. But fate, or karma, had other ideas. It was Saturday afternoon. Amanda said she was going to be at the clinic catching up on charting. She said it like she always did, casually, a little rushed, kissing me on the cheek like a woman late for work, not whatever this was. She didn't know I'd made a copy of her keycard. Didn't know I'd driven separately and parked a block away. Didn't know I was walking into her clinic with a covert button camera live streaming everything to a secure drive. I moved slow. Lights were off in most of the building. Saturday schedule. Quiet. The kind of silence that makes every sound matter. Then I heard it. From behind her closed office door. Her voice. Low. Flirtatious. Familiar. Then a man's voice. A laugh. A whisper. And then, unmistakably, the sound of her desk squeaking under movement. I stepped closer. The door was cracked. And through that 3-inch opening, I saw my wife, straddling a patient, still in partial uniform. Her white coat draped over the chair, her ID badge swinging like a metronome of betrayal. He had one hand on her hip, the other gripping the edge of her desk. She was smiling. Not nervous. Not guilty. Just satisfied. Like this was normal. Like this was routine. I didn't barge in. Didn't shout. I stood there. Filming. Recording. Documenting. Because rage fades. But evidence? Evidence doesn't lie. They didn't see me. Too busy. When I had enough, I stepped back quietly, slipped out of the building, and got into my car. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, hands gripping the wheel, staring at the dashboard like it owed me answers. But I wasn't broken. I was done. She hadn't just cheated. She'd weaponized her profession, used her license, her authority, her title, to turn a sacred space into her personal playground. She violated every oath she took. And now? I want her license gone. I want her name reported to the medical board. I want every patient she touched inappropriately to know they weren't alone, and that what happened wasn't some consensual thing between adults. It was abuse of power. Repeated. Systematic. And I want her in a courtroom, facing consequences. Because cheaters can rebuild. But criminals? They get a record. And Amanda? Amanda's going to get exactly what she earned. There's a certain weight in pressing submit on something that will destroy someone's life. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like clarity. It was 2:47 p.m. when I uploaded the video, the photos, and a written statement to the Maryland Board of Physicians. Name, Dr. Amanda Lee. License hashtag, listed. Allegation, sexual misconduct with multiple patients on clinic premises. Supporting evidence, attached. I wrote the report carefully, no emotion, no spite, no personal attacks. Just facts. Documented violations of trust, ethics, and medical boundaries. I included the dates, the burner phone messages, the email screenshots, and, of course, the full recording from Saturday showing my wife mid-act in her office with a patient. When I clicked submit, my hands didn't shake. I didn't flinch. Because this wasn't just revenge. It was justice. And I wasn't doing it out of anger anymore. I was doing it to make sure she never had the chance to do this again. Not to another patient. Not to another husband. Not to anyone. The board responded within hours. They don't waste time with cases like this. Thank you for your submission. This matter will be treated with utmost seriousness. A formal investigation will begin immediately. You may be contacted for further statement. Please retain all original evidence. I smiled for the first time in days. But I wasn't finished. That evening, while Amanda was making pasta and humming to some acoustic playlist like she wasn't a time mom in Scrubs, I quietly sent copies of the complaint in the video to her clinic administrator, the managing partner of the practice, her medical malpractice insurer, and her hospital privileges board. No subject line, no message body, just one anonymous email per recipient. Let the video speak for itself. Let the reputation she built over 12 years do what reputations do when the truth comes out implode. The beauty of it? She had no idea. At dinner, she was talking about planning a beach trip in July. I was nodding along, sipping wine, asking if she'd prefer a rental house or a hotel. Meanwhile, I knew her entire career had hours, maybe minutes, before the first crack showed. And that crack? It came the next morning. Amanda was halfway out the door when her phone pinged. She looked down. Froze. I caught the shift, subtle, but unmistakable. She didn't say a word. Didn't make eye contact. Just left. 20 minutes later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Clinic office. I let it go to voicemail. The message? Hello, this is Dr. Menendez, Medical Director at Eastbrook Family Medicine. We're reaching out regarding a situation involving Dr. Amanda Lee. We're requesting immediate contact from any involved parties. If you're the person who submitted the complaint, please call us back. They were already in crisis mode. Later that day, Amanda came home early. Earlier than she ever had on a weekday. She walked in slowly, pale, eyes wide, like she was moving through a nightmare that hadn't finished forming. I was in the kitchen making coffee. She looked at me for a long second, then said, "Did something happen today?" I sipped my coffee. "Not really." "Why?" She blinked. "You sure?" "Yeah," I said. "Pretty quiet day." And then I walked right past her. Let her sit in that silence. Let her stew in confusion. Let her wonder. Because now? I held the match. And she was sitting in a room soaked in gasoline. She sat across from me that night, trembling slightly. The Amanda I knew, the self-assured doctor, the woman who ran our house like a ship captain, was gone. What was left was someone trying to guess which version of the truth would save her. "Rick," she finally said, "I know. I know things have felt off lately." Felt off. That's what she called it. Not the lies. Not the burner phone. Not the bodies on her desk. Just a little off. She kept talking. About how she was stressed, about how she made mistakes, about how she never meant for any of it to happen. She even teared up at one point, the kind of soft, calculated tears you practice in the mirror. I didn't interrupt. Because she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the version of me she thought still existed, the husband she could manipulate, gaslight, reel back in with just enough softness and just enough guilt. But I wasn't that man anymore. So I just nodded. Let her talk. Let her squirm. And then I handed her an envelope. She opened it. Inside, a copy of the formal complaint. The board's investigation summary. A list of the departments and regulators who now had her name, her face, and that 3-minute video saved permanently to their servers. She went quiet. Her lips moved slightly, like she wanted to speak, but her mouth forgot how. I said one thing. "It's over. And you did this to yourself." She tried to deny, to twist it, to minimize. She said, "It was only a few people." I said, "It was enough." She said, "It was consensual." I said, "They were your patients." She said, "You're ruining my life." I said, "You ruined mine. I'm just returning the paperwork." The next morning, I filed for divorce. The lawyer moved quickly. With the evidence I provided, we pushed for emergency custody of the kids. Full. No overnights. No shared holidays. Just supervised visits, if the court allowed them. Amanda's clinic suspended her that same day. The partners issued a press release, pending an internal investigation. Her name started disappearing. From the website, from email directories, from the front door of the building. Within a week, her medical license was under emergency review. Within a month, it was revoked. And that man she was with on video? Turned out he wasn't her first patient. But he was the first to testify against her in exchange for immunity. The board took his statement. So did law enforcement. The charges came next. Sexual misconduct, abuse of power, malpractice, insurance fraud. The last time I saw Amanda, it wasn't in our kitchen or our bedroom or some therapy session. It was in court. She looked thinner, smaller somehow. The white coat was gone. So was the calm voice, the confident posture. She barely looked at me. I didn't need her to, because she was no longer my wife. She was just a case. And me? I walked out of that courtroom free.